So trust for me, if you want to build and foster trust in a very short period of time or even longer period of time, I think it really begins and ends with one word: presence. I think a wonderful place to start is with my personal story. And this will let you into my inside out leadership philosophy, principles, who I am, because it's not really about me. It's about those listening, those watching. And if you can grab a hold of my story and see yourself within it, then I've done my job. Think of it this way. I was heading into my senior year of university. This is many years ago. And people kept on saying to me, this is going to be the best year of your life. You have your whole life ahead of you. I was a college basketball player. I was a business student, but one major problem. I had a mass or a tumor in my abdomen that was extremely painful. The mass was growing with every day. And I mean, getting in and out of my car at that point was very difficult, very challenging. And believe it or not, this mass went without clear diagnosis for nearly 6 weeks. So I went back to the college campus, and again, I was starting to feel some of these things probably a couple months before I went to college. Typically in the US, it's going to be in late August, early September, and I was feeling some of these signs, these not so good signs, in, let's say, July of that summer. So I go back to the college campus, I get a basketball physical. This is where they check me out medically to see if I'm okay. And the doctor who was examining me, he had a frightened look on his face. And I'll never forget, I was startled by it. And he said, you have to get tests done right away. And as you can imagine, as a 21-year-old young man at that time, I was startled. I was like thinking the worst. What do I have, cancer? And my life is going to be taken prematurely? So I got CAT scans, MRIs, ultrasounds, multiple tests by multiple doctors. And let me just tell you, they were not ruling out cancer. The mass and the tumor was so abnormal, they didn't know exactly what it was. So guess what? They didn't know how to accurately treat it, until what I'm about to share with you radically changed my life and has everything to do with inside out leadership. I see an ultrasound specialist that I had not seen previously, and they begin to examine me and check me out on the ultrasound screen. And to their utter amazement, the doctor looks at me and says, Rob, I don't have adequate words to describe what I'm about to share with you, but the mass has disappeared. And I was taken back. I had a mass clearly for 6+ weeks, and now the mass had disappeared. And it was called later a modern day miracle. Well, don't you know, purpose for me leading up to this modern miracle, unusual set of circumstances, purpose for me was winning a basketball game, was hanging out with my friends and having fun. But you better believe, after what had happened, I started to view myself and others out of a completely different place. I started to take a closer look at who am I really? A part at that particular time, 7 billion people on planet Earth. And I started to ask questions like, not only who am I, but why am I really here? What's the purpose that I have in life apart from everyone else on the planet? And then thirdly, not only who am I and why am I here, but who's my sphere of influence that only I can serve and serve faithfully on this earth? And let me just tell you, little did I know that over now, 25 years later, I'd be helping leaders, speaking and training and coaching leaders all over the world to discover or rediscover who they are and why they exist, only to see that infused into what they do as a profession. So it is a joy for me to do so. Yeah, this question about fostering trust is a great one. Cultivating trust with team members. You see, trust is something that if we don't have it with a team member or team members, and this is in business, this is in life, if we don't have trust, we really don't have much of anything. Think about that. Think of relationships in your own life, whether personal or professional. If you don't have trust, or there's a lack of trust, you start questioning everything. Commitment, love, intentionality, the reasons why you do things or don't do things. So trust for me, if you want to build and foster trust in a very short period of time, or even longer period of time, I think it really begins and ends with one word: presence. If we can really begin to be intentionally present with the one before us, I know easier said than done, especially in the workplace, especially in leadership, with all the demands, all the responsibilities, all the challenges, all the curveballs that are thrown at us, and we're expected to be present. What? But I want to go into a very brief story with you. It was when my only living grandparent at the time, we called her Gammy. And Gammy was not doing well physically. And I went to visit her in the hospital. And again, my only living grandparent, she was just days before she reached 102. Yes, 102 years old. She was just days before this. But again, she was not doing well physically. And I remember visiting her. It was just her and I went in to visit her. And there was one exchange in between, she's sleeping off and on. And there was one exchange I had with her to where it's as though everyone else faded completely away. And both of us kind of came right to the forefront. I looked in her eyes. She looked in my eyes. And I said this to her: "You are so beautiful." And my 101-year-old grandmother, soon to be 102, it was almost like this 5-year-old little girl in her was coming, like leaping out in that moment. She had a happiness and a joy in the depth of her heart and soul that I could see through her eyes. And her countenance was absolutely amazing. It was like light appeared around her. It almost like that feeling, that sense. Why? Because I was present with her. And in that time of presence, I helped her I believed that she was the only person that mattered in that moment and in that time. And it changed everything about who she was and how she viewed me and how I viewed myself and how I viewed her. There was this connection of me with her with I, that is very difficult to put into words. And if we can learn the discipline and be intentional with people in our personal life and certainly our team members in our professional life, those that we lead, learning how to overcome distraction and focus on the one person that's before us, that's where the magic happens. Why? Because people feel valued, they feel appreciated, that you're not just spending time with them and present with them to get what you want, but because they're a human being that matters. And when they feel valued, celebrated in and out of that place, as a natural result, they're going to work harder. They're going to be more creative, more innovative. And reaching a goal together is just a natural byproduct that comes. Megan, one of the things that I hope people take away is in and through my passion, my highly interactive talks, the practical tools that I provide people and leaders for their tool belts so they can move forward, having everything at their disposal to set them up for greater success. I would say this: you are made uniqueness. Each person that hears me speak, my message over and over and over again, I'm invited to talk about different things, many of which have been talked about in this interview, and many other things as well. But I never stray too far from my core. Why? Because I believe that when people truly understand from the inside out their uniqueness apart from every human being, every leader, every team member on the planet, they begin to live and lead out of a place of freedom, understanding that unique identity. They live with a greater sense of purpose and passion, an extra pop in their step. And others within their sphere of influence begin to get more and more of what they have. And I'll end with this. There's 5 practical things that I unpack in every single talk that I give. Sometimes it's towards the beginning, sometimes it's at the middle, and sometimes it's at the end. And it goes back to the first question that I answered today. And it has everything to do with inside out leadership. If you truly want to understand, discover, rediscover your unique identity and live according to it, you've got to embrace these 5 practical things. Number 1, what are my personal core values? The things that I stand firm in and day out, decision by decision. that I'm actually making decisions out of this inward place all day long and may not fully realize it. What would you say your top 5 personal core values are? Second, how about your top strengths? Your top strengths, your natural talents in life, the things that ever since you were a little child, the things that came more naturally to you, that there was an abundance of fruit when you were doing them, taking part in them, that would positively affect other people around you. What would you say they are? Third, how about your top passions in life? The things that literally have you leaping out of bed in the morning in which to accomplish and which to take part in. Because these are the things that when you're passionate, you're doing them, you're talking about them, that when you are taking part in them, others around you can't help but become passionate too. Fourth, and this is a huge one, what would you say your most significant life milestones in your life have been? These are the things, good, bad, and some would even call them ugly, that have happened in your life that have helped shape you to become the person you are today, listening to me. What are they for you? For me, a really challenging thing was my parents' divorce when I was in high school. And I never would have wanted that to happen, but it shaped me. I've become stronger because of it. I can help others out of a place of deeper conviction because of it. A really positive thing that's happened in my life, talking about a life milestone, the birth of my first child. I still remember in the hospital with my wife and seeing my child, my firstborn, for the first time. It did something deep in my heart and in my mind that I'll never, ever forget, and it's changed me. I stand before you, I sit before you today, I'm talking boldly and confidently with my message, in part because of that experience. How about you? What would you say your top handful of life milestones, life experiences have been, and how they shaped you for the better? And the fifth and final area, what would you say the primary gift in life that you've been given is? See, a gift isn't meant for you. It's something you've been given. Like if the world were to squeeze you all at one time, all 8 billion people all at one time in a nice way, what would come out the most in a good way? Is it leadership? Is it empathy? Is it teaching? Is it encouragement? See, this gift that when you're no longer on earth any longer, it's a legacy you leave behind that leaves a positive ripple effect to positively affect future generations. You talk about leading from the inside out. When you learn to embrace your unique identity, considering these 5 key areas, it'll change you. And when you're changed from the inside, it can't help but work itself out into those that you get a chance to lead, you get a chance to serve, and you get a chance to influence. So Megan, thank you for this time. This has been a joy to be with you and just share the depth of my heart with you and everyone listening. Thank you.